Okay, let's get a show together. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. It is Sunday, September 29th, 2024, Norman, London. Mike in Buffalo. The Leafs coming off a pair of 2-1 wins over the rival Habs as we count down the days until the Leafs Habs starting October 9th, the 2024-25 NHL campaign getting underway. In the meantime, Nick Robertson putting on a show, coming to camp a little bit petulant, signing a contract that he didn't really want to sign. But here he is, 3 straight goals, picking pockets, putting on an offensive display that's really, really super impressive. Michael Augello, Nick Robertson. We felt that if he was going to do any damage and have any real true impact, he had to be in the top 6. Right. So far in this preseason, and there's not much left, this man has played his way into the top 6 as far as I'm concerned. Good morning, sir.
Well, I agree he should be, and that would accentuate his abilities. But whether that's going to be the case when the regular season starts, we don't know. I mean, right now, it appears, and things can change, but you know that like the preseason and the line combinations that they're using are sort of an indicator of things to come. Mm-hmm. You've got Matthew Nyes playing with Matthews and Marner. They've got Nylander playing center. Max Domi is playing on the left side, which I don't believe. I thought he was a right winger, and I thought he played mostly right wing last year, but I might be wrong because Bertuzzi could play either side. But Domi is playing with Nylander and Yarncroke, and then Yarncroke got hurt. It seems like Max Pacioretty is going to make this team, probably playing a third-line role with John Tavares. So, I mean, where is Nick Robertson going to fit in? I think he's got to play in the top 6. Now, I know he's not a fully formed defensive player, but he's got a shot, and we know that he can score in the regular season because he scored in limited ice time. This is a weapon. And to your point, it's like begrudgingly, I think he wants to play for Toronto if he gets the opportunity. He thinks, and I think he's a player with top-end talent. He's not big. He's not particularly good defensively, but there are other players in this league that aren't big and aren't particularly good defensively who are thriving in the league because they're scorers. And, this team, they could use another scorer. So why not? He's impressed in the preseason. I think he's opening the eyes of Craig Berube. I think because of the injury situation with some of the players like Yarncroke, who might not start the season, or Connor Dewar, who might not start the season, he's going to make the team, and he's going to get an opportunity. Whether that's a long opportunity, we don't know.
Is it all a coincidence, Mike? Should we have rolled out the red carpet for Nick Robertson? He knew how he was going to play, and this is just him doing what he expected of himself? Or is it simply a coincidence that he's put on this kind of show? Or maybe it's just opportunity.
He played this way in the preseason last year, and because he was waiver exempt, he went down to the Marlies for a few games and then came back up. And he was healthy last year, and I think it was 56 games that he played. I mean, with most teams, he would have played more. He probably would have scored over 20 goals. I don't think Sheldon Keefe had anything against him, but I think Sheldon Keefe knew that he needed to win last year to stay in Toronto. So he was not going to risk a player with defensive deficiencies playing in certain situations. When he played, I remember one game he scored in overtime with Matthews on a 2-on-1 break. He has offensive skill. Now, he's not like I said, he's not a complete player, but there's room for him. I would give him an opportunity in the top 6. We'll see if Craig Berube does.
Well, look, if Nick Robertson wants to be the man and get the puck most of the time, he's with the wrong organization. At this point, he's a support guy, but he can elevate himself the more he puts on a show offensively and is responsible defensively. That remains to be seen if he can do both things. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. oakridgeford.com. If you're watching this with the Sunday Spectacular in mind and then Monday to come, the end of September, guess what? Employee pricing, as far as Ford is concerned, is over at the end of September. So if you're looking for a massive discount on any vehicle within the Ford fleet, with a few exceptions, September 30th, 2024 is your last day. Get at me. Norm at Oak Ridge Ford on Instagram. You know how to reach me. I'm just about on every platform. If you're looking for a car deal on an Escape, Edge, Bronco Sport, F-150, especially because of the money off, you got to get at me. If you're watching this into October, there are all kinds of deals that I'll have just for you because you're a subscriber and a supporter of the Leafs Convo. It's a Leafs podcast. I do want to talk a little bit about Patrick Laine. Just really unfortunate. I mean, he was really going to bolster what the Habs are trying to do, and that's a team that has to punch above its weight. It's just unfortunate to watch something like that. But Robbie Robertson, 6710 in community, YouTube.com/Leafs Convo. Nick Robertson just keeps scoring despite the wants or the warts in his game. Which forward is being traded to help get under the cap? I vote for Kampf. The Leafs have cheaper players that offer what he does or close to. Your comment, Mike?
Well, I think the season starts with probably one or maybe two players on LTIR. Connor Dewar has not played at all during camp. I think he's played in like their training camp rosters. Him and Yanni Hakanpää played on the third group, and they may start the season on LTIR. If they do, then there's room. There's, Brandon Pridham, there's going to be some mixing and matching here. They're going to have to get under the cap. They have maybe one or two too many players. I mean, my assertion right now, and my thought is, I was a little surprised that Craig Berube was mentioning Matt Murray in the same breath as Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz. I believe, and Matt Murray, I think, has played pretty decently in the preseason. I think Matt Murray is making this 23-man roster, which I didn't foresee before. So I think they're going to carry 3 goaltenders. They're probably going to carry 7 defensemen, and they're going to carry 13 forwards. If Kalle Järnkrok, who was injured early in training camp, if he's not able to go, then he may start the season on IR or LTIR. Now, remember, LTIR, I think you have to be on it for over 3 weeks. So if these injuries are something that they expect them to be out for 3 weeks, then they put them on LTIR. But I don't think the Leafs want to go into LTIR space already. So there's a possibility of trades. It's not going to. I really seriously doubt it's going to be Kampf for the reason that Robbie Robertson just said. He's a 4th line center. And he's making $2.4 million. I mean, he was signed to be a 3rd line center. But the benefit of the Leafs right now is if you move Nylander to center and you have Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, and Kampf as your 4 centers, that's pretty good depth. And he's going to play a checking role, a penalty killing role. I don't think he's going to be the one traded. I mean, if it was me, I would trade Ryan Reeves but I don't know if there's anybody who's a sucker to take that contract. But I think you could see players being placed on waivers. Reeves could be placed on waivers. He won't get claimed. Timmins could be placed on waivers. I'm not sure if he'd be claimed, but he probably would be because he's a right shot. So I think they're going to rely on waivers more and burying money rather than trades.
Depth is the word, Mike. The Leafs have to just accept the fact that they're risking things and risking opportunity and risking future by putting players out there for the taking. You've got too many bodies. Just make a fucking decision and let's move on. You have enough players and you have enough depth and enough guys chomping at the bit to the extent where which way you want to coagulate this lineup, you're going to get results. And losing players is just the byproduct of having too much of a good thing. The ironic thing is, you have forwards clamoring for space. And they all fit into a roster that is capped. And the Leafs are strongly considering taking 3 goaltenders. I mean, talk about irreverent, talk about something different. But, is this a situation where the Leafs want their cake and eat it too in terms of all of these guys, knowing you can't fit them all into the structure of a roster? And is indecision going to cause this team some problems going forward?
Well, I mean, for the 3 goaltender situation, I think it's roster management. I think it's a benefit of the fact that Joseph Woll is still on his previous deal where he's making less than $800,000. So if you're carrying, it's not with the goalies, it's not cap space, it's roster space.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. But I do think that right now it's like you don't really need 8 defensemen because that means you're having 2 defensemen practice and not play. You can carry 7, and since your AHL team is the Marlies, and they can be called up and drive down Lakeshore Boulevard to the Scotiabank Arena, it takes 5 minutes to call them up, or they're practicing at Ford Performance Center. So I mean, I think if they send Timmins down now, the one thing is Hakanpää may start the season on LTIR. So there's another guy. So you may have players that are just not available early on, and that allows you to avoid the tough decisions that we're talking about. But I think the 3 goaltender thing, I think they're going to use 3 goaltenders. I think a lot of teams are going to use 3 goaltenders. A lot of teams used 3 goaltenders last year. And with the uncertainty, with the fact that Stolarz and Joseph Woll have not played a ton of games per year in their NHL career, having a third goalie to mix in to play 15 or 20 games at most, I think is a benefit to the Leafs. And if Matt Murray is completely healthy, we know when he was completely healthy, he was a good goaltender. Everybody sours on Matt Murray because he couldn't be depended on and they had to go to Ilya Samsonov. But Matt Murray, when he played, was good. So
do you think this is a concept that the management bandied about in the summer, or is this something they're finding themselves having to contend with due to the circumstances, the personnel, and the situation?
I think that's a concept that they bandied about in the summer. I do. Right. And also this is a nice problem to have. Not only these 3 goaltenders, but Dennis Hildeby, who played really well in the AHL last year. It was a young goaltender and a big goaltender, has played really well in the preseason. If he goes down to the Marlies, I mean, God forbid, there's injury problems. You have a goaltender who might be NHL capable playing in the American Hockey League. What this does also point out is that next year you have, Murray's contract expires and maybe he goes someplace else. And then you have a goaltender who's waiver exempt who may still be playing with the Marlies, but you've got a third option when it comes to your goaltending, a young option who might be a future number 1 or number 2. So it's a nice problem to have. And they have 2 Russian goaltenders over in North America as well. So for years, this team did not develop and generate their own goaltenders. And right now with Woll, with Hildeby, and the 2 Russians, they've got 4 goalies in their pipeline that might all be good, or most of them be good.
There was a time where the Leafs could basically or barely field a team worthy of professionalism, right? Let's go back a decade. Today, there are only so many spaces for players to take hold of, and there are too many guys with too much talent fighting for these few spaces. Does that mean that when you put them all together and they season and they get running and going, that they're going to be the best team in the league as a collective? No, but you've said it. It's a good problem to have, and I'm here for it. Patrick Laine takes a knee. Was it Quillen and Perry?
Cedric Perret,
Perret and Quillen colliding with this guy. Yeah. That's the thing about the preseason. That's the thing about any game. Anytime you step on the ice, anytime you step on the field of play, it could be the last time. And just from an injury perspective, I mean, there's really not much you can do about it. You go out there and you play your game. But when we tie in the idea of the risk of injury to Maple Leafs players, many of whom have already kind of been nicked and kind of beat up to a certain extent through this preseason, you got to watch it. But what the hell else can you really do? I do feel bad for the Montreal organization if Laine is out for any period of time, and it seems that's going to be the case.
Yeah, and we hope not, but I mean, it looked like the way his knee bent back, it looked like an ACL, but we never know. It could be something, it's something else, something less serious. And I do hope that it isn't anything serious and Laine can get back. But that's a funny thing. Somebody on a previous show, somebody saw that Perret was interviewed, and he seemed to sort of blow it off. I mean, so I don't know. Like, I didn't see it, so I don't know. All I know is
it's incidental, Mike.
It was incidental. It wasn't on purpose. It wasn't purposeful. But as for the symptom of like why all these injuries are happening, you look at the way the preseason has been played. The Leafs have loaded their lineups with heavy veterans for the home folks. And on the road against Ottawa and against Montreal, they basically sent out the Toronto Marlies. Same thing for Montreal. It's Laval when they play here mostly, and it was Belleville when they played at Scotiabank Arena. Now, what I'm talking about there is you've got a bunch of young players who are looking to make an impression. They're looking to make that hit or do that thing that will make them look, open the eyes of the coaches. Mm-hmm. If you're playing veteran on veteran in the preseason, not to say they're not trying, but they're not going balls out to do. So, I mean, this is a symptom of playing AHL talent against NHL players and them trying to make an impression. And unfortunately, in the game here, in the game in Toronto, Tavares got hurt, Nylander got hurt. And now,
are you suggesting this is a problem and something the league has to look into?
Well, I mean, supposedly there was like you had to play a certain amount of veterans in each game so that fans aren't going there and seeing. That seems to have been abandoned because I've seen like these games where like Pittsburgh came to Buffalo last week and there were 2 players that were NHL regulars, Puljujärvi and Ryan Graves. Right. Now, there are players who played a game or 2, and I guess they're categorized as veterans.
Right.
Well, but if you're a fan, who wants to go see that crap? So,
as a coach, Mike, when I'm evaluating talent that may or may not be a part of the team that I am helping to coach and helping to train, I am looking to the next generation of player more so than the guys I already know and who are already a part of what we have. So it's understandable that teams are going to put players out there who they are interested in seeing develop and potentially becoming a part of that team mosaic. It's just, there's the developmental aspect, but then there's the emotional and the energetic aspect of how the player wants to incorporate himself into the game, and that's where you have these collisions, figuratively and literally with personnel who've never had a sniff or are trying to get there, and others who are just trying to get a skate in and get a couple of reps in, get a couple of line changes in, maybe touch the puck a couple of times and get themselves ready for something they already know. And in the case of Patrick Laine and Perret and Quillen and these guys, I mean, it's incidental, but you have 2 agendas happening at the same time, and the result, if they don't mesh, can be really, really catastrophic.
Yeah, and Michael, I think it was Michael Pezzetta for the Canadians who hit Tavares along the boards in the game, and Tavares, it was some sort of lower body injury. The Leafs really dodged a lot of bullets the last couple of weeks. Matthews, Järnkrok, Nylander, Tavares, all have been dinged up. They're not serious injuries. It doesn't sound like it's.
What's the point of the preseason then, Mike?
Right, but so what I'm saying is, I mean. The coaches find, like you said, a value in the preseason, but I mean, the Leafs are lucky that they didn't end up in a situation like the LA Kings where they lost Drew Doughty maybe for 3 or 4 months with a fractured ankle. That's a devastating injury for that team. The Leafs are going to get most or all of these players back for the season opener, and that's a benefit for them.
Okay, William Nylander. What the hell can we deduce from any center play in this preseason? I want to see him up until November playing center, and at the end of the day, I mean, where he's at in his career, what I'm expecting of him, elevating himself as a professional, someone who's becoming more veteran, just applying himself in greater ways than just scoring. I think he is going to lock himself into that center position. That's my opinion, based on my confidence in where he's at as a player today.
I mean, I would like the Leafs to give, and right now so far they've given him more time than Sheldon Keefe did because it was 2 games. I would like them to give him a longer look at center to find out once and for all whether he can play. Because I mentioned this on Off the Post, and it was not something I had thought about, but as I said it, it makes total sense. Okay, they're paying William Nylander $11.5 million now. He's the second highest paid player on this team. Okay.
Earn your money.
Well, right, but the thing is, where do teams pay the most money for their centers? So, okay, so last year he was on last year of his contract. He was making $6 million. They didn't want to make the change last year, maybe because Keefe didn't trust him, maybe because he didn't want a change positions in a free agent year. But he's big enough, he's strong enough, he's fast enough.
Maybe, gosh darn it, people like him.
But the point here is, and maybe they're not thinking of this, but I am. If you're talking to Mitch Marner about a new contract, and they say, well, we want more than William Nylander. Well, no, William Nylander is a center. And we signed him now. We signed him on that eight-year deal because we see him as our second-line center. So we're paying Austin Matthews $13.25, and we're paying William Nylander $11.5 because he's a second-line center. John Tavares is now in the downslope of his career. He's still a good player. He's going to take less. Mitch, we can't pay you more than William Nylander because you're a winger and he's a center. Do I think it's going to work? No.
You've got the strategy session all planned out already, Mike.
Yes. I should be hired as the Leafs negotiator.
We're going to keep it short today, guys. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate everything you do for us. Ford employee pricing goes away on Monday, September 30th. Get at me. I don't care where you are in Southern Ontario. Call me. I have your car deal. Once the Ford employee pricing promotion wraps up, we don't know what's coming. There's always an incentive, but I don't think it's going to be as big as this one. That's why we've literally got, 36 hours to get something done. At Norman Oak Ridge Ford on Instagram. You can reach me through the YouTube portion of the Leafs Convo channel. Get at me. I have your car deal. You're going to save all kinds of money, and I can hand you the keys and get to meet you in person. Mike, last word to you.
Well, 2 more preseason games. I don't know if there are any real roster battles that I think Pacioretty has made this team. I think they're just toying around right now with line combinations and just seeing if a guy like Matt Murray is ready to face NHL regular season pucks. But I think most of the decisions have already been made.
Anything you want to add about your beloved Buffalo Bills? And how about your New York Yankees, the top seed in the American League?
Buffalo Bills, they're going to lose tonight to Baltimore.
Oh, God, you say they're going to lose every game.
Well,
Baltimore is a good...
Eventually I'll be right. But no, I mean, it's going to take a Herculean effort by Josh Allen for them to win. I mean, he's done it before, but Baltimore has played badly this year, and this is sort of a do or die. If they lose, they're 1-3. So I mean, the Bills, their defense, they're missing their 3 best defensive players. So I mean, it's if they do win, it's going to be a shootout.
And your Yankees marching all the way to their first World Series since 2009. That's the expectation, is it not?
Yeah, well, if they hit in the playoffs like they hit in the regular season, they should be okay. But you know how these teams pitch around 1 or 2 players, and it's up to the other players to pick up the slack. So we'll see.
OG's Conference, stay with us throughout the week to come. A few with the Wings, and then into next week, it's the season opener with the Habs. Mike and I may drop a couple of shows between now and next Sunday, and then beyond that, the idea is a couple of programs per week, but it really just comes down to what Mike is doing and what I am doing. The way you can be on top of everything that we are collectively doing is to like the content, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 5,000 subs by, next July when the Leafs hoist the Stanley Cup. So we have a lot of meat left on that bone, a lot of work to do. If you are a frequenter of the show and you have not subbed yet, why don't you just do it and tell your friends about us too. Mr. Augello, I hope you have a great week. I'll be in touch. We'll collab real soon. For Mike, I'm Norm. Thanks for being here. The Leafs Convo is out.